Hi wall crawlers, and finally! Okay, let me calm my excitement and explain a little bit. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but in the 2010s after Disney bought Marvel, they decided to make a huge cartoon television universe that was, to put it nicely, not very good. It just felt very cheap, like they cared more about pumping out episodes than getting any quality writing or animation done. It didn't help that the shows themselves were constantly trying to create MCU synergy above everything else, and they didn't really care about making this a consistent evolving universe. They had 2 of every Spider-Man character for crying out loud. But with the rise of Disney Plus, Marvel Studios deciding, or I guess reluctantly agreeing to produce their own TV shows, in spite of all showing just how cool superhero animation could be, it felt like there was some hope to finally get some good Marvel cartoons back on the air. Hell, one of the first Marvel Studios made MCU TV shows, wow that is a long sentence, was a cartoon! What if? I remember being so excited for this. Finally, after a decade of poor attempts, we were going to get a well-made Marvel cartoon. I mean, it had to be! They already were making a second season ahead of time. In the age of streaming, every show matters, and it was an anthology series based on 23 generally well-liked movies. Like, come on, there is almost no way they could mess this. Listen, I don't need to explain all my little issues with What If. I'm sure someone has made a more in-depth video to do that, but besides the fact that a lot of the time it's just boring, it seems like the writers have no idea how to alter these films in a logical way. Every idea is either too different from the films to even make sense, or too mundane to justify giving it a full episode. Like, how did the writing room get to this point? This kind of ruined my excitement for future MCU tunes, especially considering most of them seem to be following the What If template. And my goat Moon Girl came along to fill my need for good Marvel tunes. It honestly seemed like the hope really was in the separate projects. Across the Spider-Verse killed it, and X-Men 97 was solid. Besides the fact every episode was 12 comics in one and its creator was a creep, but he was fired, so now I feel good saying it was solid. And with the MCU itself in such a hit or miss state, what was the point of getting excited for these things? Like, why would I willingly get pumped up for Spider-Man freshman year out of all? Okay, well actually there was a few reasons. First off, and likely the nerdiest, Jeff Trammell. I'm going with Trammell. Who's Jeff Trammell? You don't recognize Craig of the Creek writer and voice of Cannonball, Jeff Trammell? Listen, as goofy as it sounds, Craig of the Creek is very good at building a supporting cast, making stakes feel personal, and balancing those with down-to-earth moments. Elements I think could all be applied to the best Spider-Man stories. Second off, it seemed to be very weird. They initially marketed this as Tom Holland's origin story, but quickly changed it to be its own thing after they realized it's kinda hard to make an entire show about, 6 months or so? Now they started to announce weird stuff like Otto Octavius, Daredevil, and a Norman Osborn who's mentoring Spidey. Seemed like a very different origin than normal, but I was interested to see what they were cooking. And number 3, I'm a sucker. I like Spider-Man, and even if I'm critical about modern MCU projects, I still watch most of them. And besides, I'm pretty sure the ones I had the biggest issues with weren't the popular ones to hate, so maybe my taste is just weird. So in January, yes, this is another very late video, when your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man hit Disney Plus, I ignored all red flags, including some whatever trailers, and why would you say that? And I decided to check it out, hoping for a good time. Please tell me why this is top tier Spider-Man. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is so good, man. It's peak. It's an all-timer, and I don't even know where to start. Probably the premise, right? Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is way too long of a title for me to keep repeating, in a show following 15-year-old Tom Holland Peter Parker. Not portrayed by Tom, but still dealing with the same MCU continuity you know, including the recent passing of his Uncle Ben and his recent acceptance into Midtown High School. That is until, and I know how this is gonna sound, just go with it, Doctor Strange crashes his orientation fighting a symbiotic alien and a spider emerges from the portal, biting him, giving him powers. Now going to Roxor T. Bales due to the destruction from the symbiote, he operates as Spider-Man, stopping thugs, catching calls, all until Norman Osborn offers him an internship that changes everything. Oh boy. Now I guess I have to start with the obvious. Yes, that origin is beyond complicated and kind of just funny. Within the first episode, I guess his point is to illustrate how his story branched off from the films because he's now going to a different school. But I didn't even catch that detail initially, and the ending directly features a scene from Civil War Altered, so it didn't really work for me. However, without getting into spoilers this early on, this moment is revisited in episode 10, somehow making it more complicated, but now I sort of love it? Like, it's beyond insane. I'm not sure why they felt the need to put this in here, but it's kind of cool in a silly way. Like, I'm not sure how to describe why it works by the end of the season, but it works by the end of the season. The more interesting change to his origin story comes with Norman Osborn. Like I previously mentioned, the show takes the time to animate the scene to look exactly like Tom Spidey's first meeting with Tony Stark. And honestly, it's a more interesting what if than the what if show ever attempted. From this moment onwards, the show goes completely away from the main MCU's Peter Parker story, with him facing new foes, having a new supporting cast, and internal drama. However, it never feels like it loses the sense that this does exist in the overall story of this universe. Like when he was introduced into the main Marvel Cinematic Universe, the events of Civil War are still happening in the background, and in some ways, and I must emphasize, in some ways, I feel like the show does better to address them than any other MCU projects. Particularly loved how they addressed how Spidey's actions are technically illegal due to the Sokovia Accords, and Norman has to use his influence to cover for him. It's a good use of the established continuity while still doing its own thing. But no Spider-Man is complete without a supporting cast, and I think the one here is pretty great. Nico Minor as Peter's bestie is so weird, but it works. On paper, she has a lot of traits of Zendaya's MJ, but is more outspoken, untrusting, and secretive to make her different enough to stand out. Lonnie is fantastic. Call me a fake comics fan, but I had no idea who this dude was before starting, but seeing his arc unfold genuinely was so tragic and exciting. His plot genuinely stole the show multiple times. Harry Osborn is kind of crazy. They really reinvented him for this one, making him more of a modern take on a rich businessman's son, changing his dynamic with Peter, making him meet Spider-Man first, and I think the way they miraculously still make him likable is crazy. I give half the credit to Zeno Robinson's performance. He's slowly becoming one of those voices I always notice when they pop up. But then, what I think really sells the show, Coleman Domingo Norman Osborn. So good, man. This is the kind of great use of alternate universes that Marvel has been struggling to understand. Obviously, everyone knows that Norman is Green Goblin. It's almost impossible to not. However, since this is a whole new version of the character in a whole new universe that plays into his role as a businessman and his close bond with Peter, you really don't know if or when he'll turn. For every good thing he does for Spidey, there's a piece of advice or acts he does behind Pete's back to create doubt about his true intentions. I have no idea where he's going in the next season, but he's one of the strongest aspects here. I guess the issue is, with the whole cast being so dynamic and having their own storylines, it kind of leaves Peter as the most boring character here. He has a little bit of an arc about discovering what kind of hero he is, and it does lead to a really great moment in the penultimate episode of the season, but a lot of his strongest stuff does come from who he's surrounded by. Lonnie genuinely has the strongest arc during the season, and Peter himself is uninvolved with about 90% of it and doesn't know what's happening. What saves this adaptation of the character is the fact he is a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He sacrifices his personal life and relationships time and time again to stop these villains popping up around town, but also deals with smaller crimes. Not to just highlight one particular moment, but in the first episode when he told a shop owner that a robber he stopped was going through a hard time and maybe he should go easy on them, like, yes, that's my goat, for real, that's who Spider-Man is, and this show gets it so right. And every Spidey adaptation is defined by his suits, and oh my god, he has some fantastic ones. His homemade suit being so reminiscent of Homecoming but still its own thing, the Oscorp sponsored one being all sleek and white, and then finally when he gets the classic suit, oh yes! It looks fantastic, it's such a great moment for what it stands for story-wise, genuinely top tier. Honestly, all the designs here are amazing. The classic comic book art style is a perfect fit for a story that intentionally plays on altering classic lore. It just looks great. I want all these posters on my wall and these Funko Pops on my shelf. I don't care. I'm a sucker and I am proud. Oh right, I forgot to mention, the animation itself. Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about this show while ignoring the fact that it's... How do I put this nicely? It looks not so swell. A lot of people would attribute this to it being CGI, but we've had multiple comic book inspired all-stars and big budget projects over the past few years that are all animated in CGI and look great. You don't see anyone arguing that Into the Spider-Verse should have been 2D animated despite also being very comic inspired. So is it a budget thing? Maybe? Outside of Charlie Cox as Daredevil, which, side note, I don't get why they pushed him as hard as they did in marketing. He literally has 2 scenes, hoping for some more in season 2. Where was I? Oh yeah, outside of him, no other MCU actors reprised their roles in this. And the only arguably big name is Coleman Domingo, so maybe this was a lower budget project? However, if Invincible taught us anything, it's that the cast size and animation quality aren't always equivalent. And even if they did have an A-list cast, Disney should be able to spend a little bit more for the biggest superhero in the world. So, is it a studio thing? No! Because X-Men 97 is 2D animated and it looks fantastic. A time thing? Well, considering this was announced 3 years before it released and was delayed multiple times, you'd hope they had time to work on the animation. So honestly, I don't know! Why is it CGI? Why do some movements look so janky and like they have a low frame rate? I can't explain it! But honestly, as the show goes on, I think it starts to look good. Like how some actors take time to get used to their characters, it almost feels like the animators at Polygon Pictures and CG Inc. understood how this is supposed to look a little better as the show went on. And by the time we get to the later half of the season, it consistently looks a lot better. We get some great action and a lot more natural looking character movements. Now to play devil's advocate for a second, maybe after 10 episodes I personally got used to how it looked as well, but I swear, when this show's animation slaps, it slaps. The all-star and medium blend together nicely. It just sucks that those weren't the parts that were marketed. And between the janky animation to prominent changes from traditional Spider-Man lore, some of which people mentioned didn't even happen, like where did that influencer rumor come from, and that stupid, not even accurate quote, I heard that some people decided to not even watch this one. Which sucks because this is genuinely one of the best Spider-Man cartoons of all time. Listen, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is weird. It's at points complicated, rough around the edges, and requires a general understanding of both the standard MCU and Spidey continuity to understand everything it attempts. However, throughout it all, it understands what makes the best Spider-Man stories work, and what makes the character work so well too. The changes are exciting to me. They're new and fresh. There were points when the established Spidey status quo made me think things were about to take a certain turn that didn't happen. But since the characters and world are so strong, I didn't care. I was beyond happy to see something new with these characters that isn't just the same plots with a hint of complicatedness. Genuinely, the scene in the finale that does the Invincible thing of here's what's coming next time, which now that I've mentioned the show twice, I can put it in the tags, sweet, genuinely got me so excited to see what's coming next. Hell, I'm even excited for Spider-Gwen, because I can already think of the angles in which they're gonna use her and all of them are fun. This show is a blast. It's the kind of Spider-Man show we've been needing for a while, and I really hope anyone on the fence decides to check it out. Also, because it's the kind of show streaming needs, new season next year, those maniacs have me. I love that stuff. And besides, if I can't have Moon Girl, this should hopefully help fill some of that void in my heart. Oh, who am I kidding? It's bad, y'all. I was too attached to that show. I don't know how to function without it. I get sad when I see posters of it. I started writing a non-existent Sword season in my head. Superhero animation will never be the same without it. And I really hope everyone watching this video has seen my previous content, or else this whole ending bit is just random. And Invincible fans that got recommended this because of the tags are just entirely lost at this point, huh? Superheroes! Am I right? Ha ha ha!